Look at the screen, please. In this session, we will continue the explanation of nervous system, histology of nervous system, focusing on central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord study in this session. Look at here before talk about the parts of central nervous system. The important point is the special tissue of central nervous system.
Yes.
The central nervous system is composed of two main parts, in general, two main parts. One part is known as gray matter and one part white matter. Cerebrum, cerebellum and spinal cords, these are parts of central nervous system, and all parts are composed of two components, gray matter and white matter. In freshly dissected brain, gray matter is gray and white matter is white, but in prepared tissue, the gray matter is not gray. Maybe it will be red or blue, for example, because of using different stains, different colors, different staining and different preparation. Okay, gray and white just refers to freshly dissected tissue. Look at this picture. Compare this part with this. Here you can see a neuron. This is a neuron, and here is nucleus, and this is nucleus. And this is glial cell. Okay? Another neuron, the smaller, is located here with nucleus and nucleus. And you can see several glial cells. Now look at this part. Is there any neuron here? No, there is not any neuron here. You can see some glial cells. These are glial cells. And some sections like this. Or this one. This one. These are glial cells, and these sections are from axon. Myelinated axon. This point here is axon, and the white part, the empty part, this part that is empty, that is white, is myelin. Because myelin is mainly composed of what? Lipid and protein. And during tissue preparation, lipid and protein dissolve in raw materials. For example, within alcohol. Lipids dissolve in alcohol. So the location of myelin sheath is empty, is white. In fact, here we have lipids. So this structure is myelinated axon, and this point is axon, and the white part is myelin. Okay? There is not any cell body of neurons here. This part is white matter that can be seen in all parts of central nervous system. And what about this part? This is gray matter. So the key points, the key features are having cell bodies or not, or having myelinated axons or not. The key feature of gray matter is having cell bodies, soma of neurons. The key feature of white matter is having myelinated axons. And glial cell can be found in different parts, in gray matter or white matter. Okay? For example, astrocyte can be found in gray matter and white matter. Microglia can be found in gray matter and white matter. What about oligodendrocytes? Only in white matter, because the function of oligodendrocyte is myelin sheath production, synthesis of myelin sheath. So it can be found only in the white matter. Any question? Now let's have a look at the histology of cerebellum. The histology of cerebellum, not cerebrum. Mukhiq.
Yes.
Cerebellum. Here you can see a section of cerebellum. As you can see, it is not gray or white because it is stained by H and E. For example, hematoxylin and eosin staining. Over here is another staining, that nerve cells are blue. Okay, this is because of different staining. Now look at this picture. We have two parts related to cerebellum. The cerebellum includes two main parts. The outer part is known as cortex, and the inner part, the middle part, at the center of cortex is white matter, that is medulla. M refers to medulla. So what is medulla of cerebellum? White matter. And what is the location of medulla? Center, at the central part of, inside part of cerebellum. And this part, the outer part is cortex. Just this part is in this white matter, that is medulla, this part. Okay? Now look at other parts. The outer part from here to here is known as cortex. And as you can see, the cortex includes three parts. The cortex includes three parts. The outermost part here is known as a molecular layer. The outer part. This part is molecular layer. And you can see molecular layer here. And as you can see, within the molecular layer there are scattered cell bodies, scattered neurons. Not densely packed, scattered. These are neurons, okay? A small neurons. This is the first layer, the outermost layer of cortex. Cortex is the outer layer, and the outer layer of cortex is molecular layer. And the second layer is one row of larger cells. These cells, just one row. One row of larger cells. These cells that are functional, the main functional cells in the cerebellum, are known as Purkinje. Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells, the second layer, just one row of unique cell, a functional cell in the cerebellum. Purkinje cell, this layer. And the innermost layer that is composed of densely packed neurons, densely packed, densely packed neurons, cell bodies. This layer is known as granular layer. Granular layer. And cells, neurons here are known as granule cells. This layer. Okay? Any question? Cortex, middle, and cortex with 3 layers. Look at this picture here, you can see the cortex of cerebellum with higher magnification. So this layer with scattered cell bodies is molecular, and here you can see a large Purkinje cell. And this is Purkinje cell. And these are dendrites. Put another Purkinje cell here with several dendrites. And what about this layer? Or this one?
Granular layer.
Granular layer. And what is this cells?
Cell bodies.
Granule cell. Granule cells. Cell bodies are granule cells that are densely packed. Soma, cell body, precardium, all of them. This refers to
What's the common names of it?
cell body. Cell body is common. Now look at this picture. This picture is from cerebrum. Cerebrum, or in Arabic, mukh. Not cerebellum. Cerebellum is mukh. Cerebrum is mukh. This picture is from mukh. Again, in the cerebrum, the outer part is known as cortex and middle part is known as white matter. The same structure. But we can't see prominent layers here, similar to molecular layer, Purkinje cells, and so on. But in fact, there are 6 layers of cells here, but it's not prominent in histology here. And maybe you will study that in neuroscience, anatomy. But the most important point here that the functional cell in the cerebrum, in the motor cortex, are these cells, these neurons. These are known as pyramidal cell. So the motor neuron in the cerebellum was Purkinje. The motor neuron in cerebrum is pyramidal. In cerebellum, Purkinje. In cerebrum, pyramidal. These are pyramidal cells. And also you can see other cells here. This is another staining that you can see pyramidal cells, and these are dendrites. All of these are dendrites. And near to pyramidal cells, you can see astrocytes. These are astrocytes. So which part of cerebrum is this? Because it has neurons, cell bodies, it is gray matter. It is cortex. Because we can see neurons. And what about glial cells? Look at the size of this cell and this one. The larger ones are neuron, cell bodies of neuron. And a smaller one, glial cells. Type of glial cells is not important here. We cannot distinguish between different type of cells in this type of staining. That which cell is microglia, for example, which cell is astrocyte, which cell is oligodendrocyte in this type of staining, that is H and E, hematoxylin and eosin. We can distinguish between different glial cells. Just you must know that the larger cells are neurons, like this, and the smaller ones, glial cells. Okay? Now let's have a look at the spinal cord. spinal cord. Here you can see a section of a spinal cord, a cross section or transverse section. As I told you, at the center of a spinal cord there is central canal. Here is central canal. A central canal is lined by which type of glial cell? Ependymal. Ependymal simply, not ependymal. Ependymal cell. And here you can see two distinct areas. The white part here is white matter, this part. And the location is opposite of cerebrum and cerebellum. In the spinal cord, the white matter is located peripherally. Mohit, peripherally. But the gray matter is located centrally. This is gray matter. So what is the main cell here in the gray matter? Cell bodies are neurons, the main component. The main component of white matter? Axons. You can see axons here. And neurons here. Different. This part is whiter because of myelin. Because myelin, the composition of myelin is mainly lipid and protein. And lipid, as I told you, dissolves in the alcohol during tissue preparation. So here, it is whiter in this thing. Now focus on the white matter. What is the shape of white matter here? It is H-shaped, similar to H. H-shaped. It has anterior parts and posterior parts. The anterior part is known as anterior horn. Anterior horn. And horn. And this part is posterior horn. Posterior and anterior horn. The anterior horn is mainly composed of motor neurons. Motor neurons. The motor neurons innervate muscles, for example, muscles of body. Motor neurons. But the posterior horns are mainly sensory or interneurons. Sensory neurons receiving information, data, impulses from the skin, for example, temperature, touch. Sensory neurons. And what is an interneuron? Inter means between something. So interneurons communicate between two different neurons. For example, between a sensory neuron and a motor. So functionally, we have three types of neurons: sensory, motor, and interneurons. Sensory receiving impulses from the skin, for example. Motor generate and conduct impulses to muscles or glands. And between these two, there are interneurons for communication. Focus on this part. This is anterior horn. So what is this neuron? Motor neuron. I told you the anterior horn is the location for motor neuron. And what about this part? Is there a neuron here? No. Just you can see white parts, white areas. These are myelins. Any question?
Doctor, does the anterior horn have more cell bodies or like motor cells than the posterior horn?
The motor neurons in general are larger, not just in number. Larger.
Is this why it's dense, like its color, it's denser than the posterior?
Yes. It's denser because of more nuclei. Nuclei of not just neurons, nuclei of glial cells also. think about the granular layer of cerebellum. The granular layer of cerebellum has many nuclei, so it was denser in color. You know everything about meninges, and here you can see meninges of a spinal cord. The outer layer is dura, middle layer is arachnoid, and below arachnoid is subarachnoid space, and just attached to a spinal cord is pia mater. Everything is the same as in the brain, meninges. And here is the histologic picture, an image of meninges of the spinal cord. This is the outer part of a spinal cord, that is white matter. The inner layer is pia mater. The outer layer dura, and between them arachnoid. And below arachnoid is subarachnoid space. Here you can see some vessels, blood vessels. You can see some large blood vessels in the space of subarachnoid. And subarachnoid space, as I told you, is filled by subarachnoid space is filled by CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. What is this structure? Axon. Very good. These white areas are myelinated axons. And this is the last slide of today. Choroid plexus. Choroid plexus. Choroid plexuses are an structure choroid plexus is a structure inside the roof of ventricles, some ventricles of brain. As I told you, ventricles of brain are spaces inside, within brain. And there is a space within the spinal cord that is known as central canal. I told you, there are spaces within brain and spinal cord. Within some ventricles of brain, that is third ventricle, fourth ventricle, and lateral ventricles. The name of ventricles is not important because you will study the ventricles in anatomy of nervous system. Just focus on the tissue. At the roof of ventricle, this is a ventricle, okay? At the roof of ventricle, there is a tissue known as choroid plexus. Choroid plexus. The function of choroid plexus is to produce CSF, to produce and secrete CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Choroid plexus. Now, what is the structure of choroid plexus? You can see the structure of choroid plexus here. Choroid plexus, in fact, is pia mater. Is vascularized pia mater. Choroid plexus is vascularized pia mater. Vascularized. Look at this part, this tissue. At the surface of choroid plexus, as I told you, that is part of ventricles or a row of cells, this part. I told you that ventricles and everything inside ventricles are lined by ependymal cells. So at the surface of choroid plexus is also a layer of ependymal cell. So this is a layer of ependymal cell. Okay, this is choroid plexus. At the surface, it is lined, it is covered by a layer of ependymal cell. Okay, and within the choroid plexus, this part, we can see several capillaries, large capillaries. These capillaries. This is a unique type of capillaries known as fenestrated capillaries. There are different types of capillaries within the body. One type is known as fenestrated capillaries. Capillaries with some fenestration. For example, imagine that this is a capillary. There are some fenestrations for passage of something, for passage of water, for example, ions. So type of capillaries here are fenestrated capillaries. And the ependymal cells absorb water from capillaries and secrete this water into the ventricles. Okay? So it will be CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. What is fluid? CSF, mainly water. And the origin of water is blood vessels, blood. So ependymal cells of choroid plexus absorb water and ions, for example, NaCl, from blood and secrete into ventricles as CSF. Any question about choroid plexus? We will have ependymal cells, fenestrated capillaries, and the function is absorption and secretion of water and ions from blood. So the origin of CSF is blood. The origin of CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, is blood. That is produced by choroid plexus. And what is the location of choroid plexus? At the roof of ventricles, some ventricles in the brain. You can see it in this area, it is easy to understand. These are ependymal cells, and this is the capillary. The ependymal cell absorbs the water and ions and secretes it into ventricles. Any questions? No? Thank you so much. That's it.